I think the report comes up with some really interesting and clever ideas, but one thing is for sure, we can't do what we've done for the last 20 years, and the government absolutely need to set some precedents. And, there's that fine line between nanny state and having a good nanny, because no one wants to have an abusive nanny, right? So we've got to find, we don't want to take choice away from the British public. Absolutely not at all, and I don't believe in that at all, but definitely big companies globally need to reformulate, and
that's the key word, is it? That this idea that you can actually change the recipes to make similar food but much healthier.
100%. I mean, if you look at what's happened in the past, when we've set reformulation targets voluntarily, it really hasn't worked. And when we look at, say, the sugary drinks tax, it didn't impact the cost. Everyone said it was a bad idea. I drove that one myself, and we knew, and the scientists and people that care knew it would. It's taken millions and millions of tons of sugar out of the system, empty calories, and actually the industry is richer for it. They have a more diverse range of products, and they were able to do it. Now, if you look at that across all the food system, from cereals to food, pre-packed food, a little bit more controls with the fast food industry. And if you look at the rise of, apps and fast food in the last year, that ain't going to make us better. That's going to definitely take us back. So as we progress with some initiatives, new technologies are going to go against that. And of course, the purpose of government is to serve you, the public, and your listeners, to do all the hard, complex, boring, miserable work to know where are the problems and how do we fix it. And of course, when you kind of maybe look outside of food and compare it to other public health measures, the integrity of what's required to make a car tyre, or emissions, or the quality of British water and why it's some of the safest, cheapest, water on the planet, we would never want to take away the integrity of that. So I think you're always going to have big business sort of saying, oh, it's more money on your, bowl of cereal, but actually, in actual fact, the only reason those companies can state any health claims most of the time is because of fortification, which is nothing to do with the food. It's things added in. And of course, we do that to try and give the public something good in the morning. So I think the strategy comes up with some good new ideas. I think it sets out what the government could do to be pioneering around the world. I think it also puts some responsibility on businesses and people. And look, of course, we all believe in, the public and your own responsibility. Of course we do. But we also know that the concept of choice is only if you've got one. And the only choice you have is if there's a good one and a bad one, or a better one, not just bad and bad. So I think that the thing that worries me, James, is that our most vulnerable communities, as a country, and fundamentally this is one of the things that inspires me as a kid that didn't do so well at school, and the concept of being able to achieve anything in this beautiful country, working out of any position, whether it's academic, financial, a postcode. The idea that any child can succeed in this country is a theoretical truth. But if you live in a poor area, which has massively more junk food advertising, which has massively earlier mortality, it has less educational attainment, the actual possibility of the we call it social mobility in posh words, but ultimately, and for all the people that don't live in those areas, every British person does better if our most vulnerable cost less, are happier and more productive. So from crime to happier communities to fairness, so from morality to physical GDP of this country. So for me personally, this is not just about food. It's about truth and fairness and allowing our most vulnerable to truly realise their full potential.